So welcome, Raul, to this webinar series. Thank you for being with us. I would like you to introduce yourself and tell the audience, the people in the audience, about your background, okay?
Okay. Okay, thank you to all of you for attending this webinar. This is a brief profile of myself. I was a chemical engineering. I have a master's degree and a PhD in management in the whole university. Some certification and related with my employment. I spent 14 years working in the medium and large organizations, public and private, and 18 years working as a founder, partner, or CEO of consulting firms. Dicta related with information systems management, POCO related with learning processes, GBG related with the strategy, and Quantum, now in Quantum related with complexity management and strategy. This is a brief introduction of our firm. We are a complexity management consulting based on the use of systems thinking approaches. We work as a community, consulting community with more than 10 international firms and more than 10 national firms in our community, consulting community, 134 clients and more than 200 international, national systemic intervention, 90% reselling, experience in 40 public and private sectors. And yesterday, I have a notice that we developed diagnosis or design 89 viable system models. Since I discovered this approach, is great for me, and I applied from 2017 until now in 89 cases. Okay, let's start with this presentation. We have in mind this webinar objective is to present a case study to show to share with you a methodology to evolve small and medium enterprises from a system of business relationships. In my opinion, all organizations, all SMEs works with business relationship, but this methodology is how to convert these organizations to a designed business networks using the viable system model in order to enhance the viability and sustainability of the emerging ecosystem or the emerging designed ecosystem. But one thing, very important thing for me is looking for the common good, because it's very, very, I found that not necessarily the people when form a network looking for the common good. Then we discuss this later on, okay? We have an agenda. We spend around 15 minutes in the black letters looking for the context, for the challenges that I saw in this area, how the business networks in the business arena works, one example of this approach, what gaps I saw when I review the business network based on business platforms, what gaps related with systems thinking. And after that, we move to the case study. The case study, I articulated the case study using my own cycle of action research that I use on my PhD. We spend in these red letters around 40 minutes. All the webinar takes around 50, 60 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Most of the time in the case study, because I think for you is the most important part for this talking, okay? Related with the context and briefly, we moved through 4 industrial revolutions, and each of these industrial revolutions moves more variables in our world, and that's a target for the increasing complexity that we live today. Obviously, the mindset model to manage organization moves in time from different mindset models, like machines, then to organism, then to organization, to social entity, and then business network. That means that the world moves, and then the management moves as well. At this moment, we have more variables that are interconnected, and these and changing faster, and move more variables in the environment. Then the increasing complexity is a reinforcement cycle today. And I saw obviously all the gaps that you have in mind, I think. These new paradigms demands new tools, new approaches to face this increasing complexity, to becoming more agile. And we need to move from the egocentric paradigm, looking the companies in an isolated manner, to an allocentric paradigm, to see as a network related with other entities in this increasing complexity and change that we live today. In the business arena, they developed since more than 10 years, around 10, 15 years, a concept that named business platforms. And the business platforms like Amazon, like Netflix, like Airbnb, all these kind of platforms responds to the different behaviors in the customers. Okay, here I some data around the behavior in the consumers. We consume more brands. We visit different retailers. We move our behavior. Then we need to move faster in this changing world. And we came from value chain mindset, like pipeline, when we're looking for resource control, internal optimization, focus on customer value, and focus on increased sales. And then all these business platforms move from a business network platform. When you're looking for resource orchestration, not to control it, more that to external interactions, not internal, more on the ecosystem value, not my own value, and to the value exchanges more than increased sales, okay? And these platforms are designed using this model from Van Alstyne in these simple forms. We have producers. We have first the owner of the platform, like Amazon, that invite producers, okay, and suppliers to bring the services or products to the customers or consumers. These are the basic design of these platforms, but here is very simple. But the question for me is how to implement this in a small and medium enterprises, because and how to use the viable system model to frame this kind of business platform, even in the small and medium enterprises. Okay. Then I think in three gaps. The first gap, viewing the business platform, the business area, is that the SMEs working in an implicit networks, because they worked with different kind of entities like suppliers, providers, allies, clients, users, governments, ONGs. But they work in this business relationship, but not in a designed way, and then lose a huge potential if you think in your business relation and move it from a business network, in a designed business network. And I apply this in small and medium enterprise and large companies but most important thing is seeking to a common good, viability and sustainability in a way to face the increasing complexity, change, and diversity. Then we can help using the system thinking and particularly the viable system model to frame this SME network based on the business relationship and design this network to get all the potential that the network offers in a designed way. This is the gap that I saw. Obviously, in order to face this gap, I use the systems thinking approach, particularly the viable system model. And as you know, looking for a network, we need to have in mind very clear the recursivity principle around the design of the SME network, because a company when moves from a network is a part of the network. The owner, but a part of the network, is one of these dolls, but we need to see the big doll. It means the network. And we can use, obviously, the viable system model in a recursivity way to frame this business network, okay? Using, obviously, the viable system model. And then we can move to the case study, how to frame an systemic intervention to do this, to face these gaps using the system thinking, and to help SMEs to frame a business platform, okay? I work directly with this company. I as a founder of this network. Then we start now with the case study, okay? To frame this case study, I use my action research. I frame it with an action research method, and I use this in my PhD. I use the same action research cycle. I have a research question, then design a framework to face this question, and develop a methodology based on the model to intervene, to understand a real problem situation, to take action in the situation and reflect on the action taken. And from this reflection, looking for findings. This is the same action research cycle that I use in my case study to frame this Unimine network, okay? Then start with the research question. I share with you my research question at this moment. In my mind is how to evolve the SME's business relationships into a BSM designed emergent business network in order to take advantage of the exponential possibilities to all the stakeholders involved. This is the first research question that I have in mind. In the framework, I use the same framework that I developed in my PhD. This model based on 4 phases: the meaning phase, the understanding phase, the yellow one, the focusing phase in the green one, and the executing phase in the blue color. And then you can see different kind of questions related with meaning is who is the organization? Related with yellow, how does the organization work? And which problematical situation does the organization need to solve to be viable? And after we move to the focusing phase, looking for which business model should the organization use to be viable? And specifically, what does the organization need to do to improve and be viable? And finally, how should the organization perform its follow-up to guarantee the expected results? This is my own model. Dr. Elena, I think you remember very well this model because I work with you in. Thank you. And from this model, I develop a methodology. This is my own methodology. I detail the phases, in subphases and themes and things like this. And I use the same methodology for my case study to frame this business network. Okay, then move to the problem situation. To the problem situation, I bring you a brief context around the company. The company is agreed to share with you the name and profile. This is the company here in Mexico that start the network. Okay, this is the first founder of the network, the company that invited me to develop this network. This isolated company is one of the top 10 advertising and marketing agencies in Mexico. They have more than 15 business alliances and works with more than 80 business entities interacting with the firm at this moment in business relationships. They have a national, international presence. Before this work, I worked with them developing their business model, the viable system model, to move to a strategy. I developed the strategy for the last year for this company. And this is the start point because this is the context for our case study. And from this point, we move with this tracker. In this tracker, I try to show you what happened month by month, okay? In each month, we develop different kinds of interventions around more or less 1 year. And I can share with you all this process, but using this as a tracker. Then we review the context and move to the perceived problem situation for the company. The company think in something different because they have only 60% of hit rate. It means they only get 60% of projects of all the opportunities they have. Is very low in this sector. Their clients is in an opposite way that they want, because they want clients name it AAA, but they don't only have 10% of clients with this profile, with this high profile, losing 30% last year of this client. 30% of clients AA, they remain, but 60% of clients A clients. This increasing internal complexity, they have in the last year more small clients and loses a significantly big clients. They only have around 20 leads in the commercial funnel. And here is an interesting data, because they have from every 10 projects, they invite to his business relationship 80 times from 10. And in the opposite way, the allies invite to them only in 2 occasions from each 10 projects. Then we have an exchange in not in the same way. Then they face these facts, and I suggest them to looking for a network. They need to differentiate the value proposition to make a competitive advantage. They need a new high-profile clients, and they drive the further market expansion and sales, and they need to increase business capabilities because they are focused mainly in advertising and not in commercial strategy or organizational strategy, and it is bad for them because they lose opportunities with AAA clients when focused only in advertising issues. From this business reality emerged the need to develop a network. Okay. Then we move from previous. This is the starting point that I saw now with you. And we start in the month 1 to understand the implicit network, okay? The implicit networks in the first month, they share with me, they have 88 entities. You look here on an image of these entities, 15 formal business alliances. They are organized in 19 groups of entities, as you see here. The main brands of this map are the groups. And at the same time, they are working with 22 brand ecosystems. This is the starting point for the network. After that, here in the segment 1, we move to understand the emergent network behind the 88 entities, because it's different to see 88 entities to and then we move to grouping all the entities in different aspects, in different themes. Who are the customers, the industrial sector, the commercial channels, the all the entities related with merchandising, with enterprises, with back office, with strategy and things like this. And this emergent understanding of the implicit networks give us the opportunity to define the first one related with the purpose, the first purpose of the expected network. We work with the internal team with brainstorming, looking for partners and then for distinction, and move from define and emergent purposes. And here we distinguish very clear 2 aspects. One purpose is for the network, and other purpose is for the company, for the isolated company in the network. Okay, because before this exercise, they confuse the alchemy with the network.
Then kamerę tam pani chodzi po myślą jakimś tej cudzie. Nie, bo ja wiem, bo mam włączony, bo nic się nie dzieje. Spokojnie, się pani nie boi, to jejciu, ale mikro, przepraszam.
Sorry about that. Carry on.
Don't worry. Then we define the purpose with the internal team. We define the value proposal only with the internal team and the owner. This is the first value proposal to the people we want to involve or to invite to this network. Sales, strategic approach, profitable business development, and governance. And finally, we define 3 benefits from the people that we have in mind to invite: the client's portfolio, the value proposal, and the capabilities. With this first ethos, we move from a business network model, the first version of the business network model, and we move to define these first relationships in alchemy, the isolated company inside a network here. This is the first business network that it is related with the purposes and the value proposal that I defined before. And here, this model help us to define key players, because definitely this is what I talked to you before, Dr. Angela. We invite only key players because it's difficult to have agreements with 88 entities, and then we distinguish 12 key players from the business model that I developed to invite something like a first something like founders or counselors or on a role like this. And this is that we work on the first month. Then with this, we move to the community integration. In this second month, we discuss one by one with the key players, understanding better a deeper understanding in the key player related with their value proposal, their portfolio, their client's profile, then discuss very briefly about business network, and share with them the purpose and the value proposal and governance pillars that we developed before. After this, we invite formally to them to be part of the network, and I ask them about their expectations related with network role or participation around their business need, around the result expects from them, and the next steps. Okay, with all this information, we spend time one by one here with the 15 key players. We define the second business model. In the second business model, obviously, after the discussion with all the key players, we discovered 4 nodes like this, no? One node related with back office services, another node related with business strategy, another with transformative marketing, and another one with business development. Then, in a more detailed way, we define a subsystem inside each node to frame the first version with all the capabilities with 15 players inside this network. This is our first business network with the key players. This is what we developed in the second month. Having in mind the purpose and the business network, and using my own model, we moved to the intervention design, okay? To the focusing phase. In this intervention design in month 3, we asked them, to all the key players, what are their expectations, what are their needs, what are the next step. And with this information, from now on, we work with the key players. With this information, we define a work plan for 3 months only, because we need to see how to work all these 15 people together to build a network. At this moment, we define only 8 founders, okay? 8 founders, and we develop this work plan looking for leadership, for working on a shared vision, a network strategy, a network governance, a network service development, a network marketing, and commercial strategy. Then we start to move on the execution using this first work plan. And then, we define the founders, 8 founders, 12 associates, and 68 allies. We distinguish 3 kinds of memberships in the network. The 88 entities, but in these different distinctions. We define criteria. What kind of criteria needs to cover the founders, the associates, and the allies, to put them in each of these groups. And then we start to make a combination between a business platform and the viable system model. We define some roles in the network at the high level. Obviously, we have the allies, the board members, the associates, but we have we develop in a deeper way the network meta system. We define a node managers, a node advisors, like system 4 came from the founders, a network manager like system 3, the platform managers at system 3 start, obviously the founders at system 5, and at the system 2 we develop guidelines, governance guidelines related with commercial, operational, and teams integration. Then we we move here with the founders, and when we work with the founders, we develop the next stage from this part. We move to develop the second version of our ethos as a founders. From here, we work with the founder, with the 8 founders, defining with them the mission statement, the transcend purpose, the value proposal. We work on the guidelines for the governance structure, for the governance guidelines and the governance follow-up. And with the founders, we define the next version of our business model. We discovered that we need to add another node because all these founders have commercial channels in different parts, and we can integrate a commercial node in order to take advantage of all the channels for all the companies to have another node to sell the services for the network using all the commercial channels from all the founders. Then this our new version developed with the founders. After that, we move to with the founders the strategy. Obviously we define only guidelines, looking for commercial strategy, operational strategy, defining key points around the results, the segment, the challenge, the portfolio, the processes, the information systems, and define a strategy with the founders. But here we have a breakpoint, because when we define this strategy, as you can see here, from month 1 to month 5, we have a flow in the process. The process flows very, very well, but here the personal interests and expectations have a huge influence of the next steps in the network, because here we have in the 6 months a new problematical situation. The new problematical situations means the inertia moves from an allocentric spirit and returns to an egocentric spirit, because the founders wants to get projects from their companies, more sales, more leads, in an egocentric way. And then in month 6, the expectations in times and results have a significant influence on moving to take actions, but in an egocentric way, not as a network. The leadership, the owner of the network, he worked as a designer, not as an owner, and then take control of all the process in the network design, looking for projects, looking in short-term focus, only looking for leads in all the companies that work in this possible network, with huge problems and not defined project management, not defined commercial management, and at the same time the owner looking himself as a designer, put in the table 2 main distractors: the kickoff event, the design of the kickoff, a huge kickoff event, and working on the network image and the network corporate image. And this distractor, in addition to this new problematical situation, moved during 3 months only we return to business relationships, not to build a network here in the 6 months. Here, then you can see the white box. The distractor, we work obviously in the corporate image. We develop a deep work around the name. Here, some options of the name. We select Unimind. This is the logo of Unimind Network, slogan and things like this. We worked in this time in the kickoff event. We designed a kickoff event for 300 people with the speakers and things like this. But we work in these 3 months and in this environment, in my opinion, egocentric environment based on only business relationship, and lose all of us the vision to build a network. Then in the 9th month, we rethink what happened here, because all of us feel that we move very well at the beginning in the first 3 months, like a founders, but something happened here, and then we have a stop in the road and rethinking what happened with us, and we rethink using our hearts and our brain, because we discovered that we need a process. We need a systemic intervention. It's not related. It's not only to put people together. It's to think in a process, to think in a build a network, to think in an intervention. This is a first insight. The second one is from the owners. He rethinking what must be his role. More looking for the cohesion, not designing, not operating. We insist in thinking as a network in an allocentric way, because in these 3 months, we think only as a group of 8 companies, not as a group representing 88 entities. We return to think as a network, not as a founder, and looking for the common good and the need new approach. And then after this, we inquiry to define a new future focus and move to something that we call reconnection. After this rethinking, in the same month, we explored, all of us, what results do I want to achieve in the network again. But after these 3 months of delay, we're rethinking what kind of objectives, business objectives we want from the network, and define all different opinions. Here you can see the opinions in the left, the right, sorry. And with all these opinions, we built in the month 10 our second share vision. We define business results in our vision. And we work on a second intervention work plan. This is the second one. And after that, we move to work together to rebuild in months 11 and 12 key aspects of our network, thinking in 88, at least 88 entities, with our hearts and with our brains. All the things that you see in green, with green cycle, we finish it. We work now on the yellow ones, and we will work on the orange ones. We define the transcend purpose for the entire network, the mission statement, our values, our value proposal, our corporate image, the different kinds of membership, and the way to work together with all the members, the shared vision that I showed before. We are working now, Dr. Angel, in the new business model based in the BSM. We define clearly the business results. We are working now on the commercial strategy. And we work on the operational and team's integrity. Obviously, we have in mind to finish this in this month, mainly in this month, and then design our last business network with the same 5 nodes. But here you can see in red, in green and yellow squares, the services as a network. These 8 services came from all the capabilities in the network. Sorry, because it's in Spanish, but we define 8 services. We define nodes managers again. We define node sponsors. But around these services, we can frame a first view from our business model. viable business model, with 3 systems one and all our meta system, and this is our work at this moment. Then, as you can see, this is all the process that I lived during almost 1 year. And what are the reflections before this process? I want to share with you an case study timeline analysis, because I think reflections start here. It's clear for me, looking at this action and research cycle, that we need to have in mind three processes. A process, what we develop from the owner's perspective. This is the starting point, because this is the first step in this design. What is the perspective of the owner? Another phase related with the founder's perspective, to build a network in order to share it with the next step, looking for the network's perspective. Here we have 1 entity, here we have 8 entities, and here we have 88 entities. And these phases, I can distinguish around 6 stages. To discover the needs, the discovery, the merging network, the integration of the first version of the network, work hard in all the aspects related with identity as a network, and the focus of the network, and then to build the network, sorry. And all the steps that I share with you, I look them like themes. In these themes, you can see this nomenclature. When you see this red line, we set boundaries. When you see the blue line is when we exploring purposes. And all the process, we discuss a lot with different voices, with internal stakeholders, the owner and the internal team from Alchemy, and external stakeholders like founders and the extended network, means associates and allies. In the first month, we discovered the context of the company. In the discovery, I understand the merging network, as I discussed with you before. You can see here all these aspects. We work with the internal team, the green circles, and with the owner. These are the discussion with different people. Then we move to the integration, how to integrate the first business network based on the founders. We work here with the extended network, and after that with the founders. In the identity, we developed the first approach with the identity with the founders. We developed here 1, 2, 3, 4 business model. Then we have the delay for 3 months. And then we reconsider our identity in the same block here in the 9 month. All of this, we're working only with the founders. But here you can see the internal team. One mistake that we made is we work with the internal team to develop the corporate image and develop all the organization for the kickoff event. But from the beginning until 7 months, they know nothing about the network, and suddenly they have this work, and it consumes to us a lot of time, confusions. It's a bad approach to make like this. Then in the 10 month, we reconnect even with the work that we made in the month 5. And after this focus, we move to the network building in the last 2 months. All the work that you see here are with the founders. And if we don't have this delay here, we can connect directly the month 5 with month 10. it means we can work with an extended network in month 7 or 8, okay? Not at month 12, but bueno, this is the process that we work. And based on this process, we develop some reflections related with our action research cycle. The first one is related with the framework. We need to think in 3 recursive action research bottom-up phases. What's the meaning of the bottom-up? We need to start from the owner's perspective to the founders and to the network community. Obviously, the network community covers all the founders, and the founders covers the owner. But in this recursive action research, we need to think in 3 different phases to work the phases to these kind of processes at this moment. Related with the methodology, we need to see the methodology as a guideline. We need more plasticity in the methodology, because despite the business relationships, the evolution to business network implies different interests to involve stakeholders. You need to put together these different interests, and you need to make adjustments to the methodology or to flow with the processes, because these interests or the new problematical situations move to you to move forward or backward, depending on the interest that you can face along the process. And then obviously you need to have a methodology as a guideline, but you need to face all the challenges that you see depending on the interest, obviously with the guidelines. But you can, it's difficult to have a rigid methodology for all the process for these interests and new problematical situations. Related with the problematical situations, it evolves along the action, and for the same reason. The emerging business network shows different challenges when the process moves from the owner to internal team to the founders and to the network community. Every move gives to you different kind of problematical situation that you face when you move from one group to another group. The action in the situation, you need to have in mind a necessary ethos evolution, because the purpose from the owner's perspective, from the founder's perspective, from the network perspective, you need to look the purpose as a purpose that you need to refine and refine and refine, but not because this purpose represents more people when you move along the process. And related with the BSM, Dr. Angela, you have in mind the following business model design. I see at least 5 designs, 5 business models. First, the emergent system, most oriented to the systems one. The business model related with the owner's perspective, again, oriented to systems one. The same to the first model developed with the owners and first community, the 15 possible participants at the beginning. The model with the founder's perspective, only the founders, and finally the with the network community adjustments. Again, you need to refine your business model, but it's in a different scope. The first 3 of these related with mainly with system 1, and the last 2 of these, you can draw a complete business model. Why? Because in the first, when you don't have a very clear idea what is the system one, it's difficult to set the meta system at this time. And the first three business model, you can use it as a tools, only to discuss mainly the system one of the network that you have in mind. We need one mistake that we made is we don't involve the stakeholders during the case study. We focus mainly on the founders, and it's a mistake because we need to keep in touch with the internal team, with the extended network. But okay, this is a reflection. And finally, related with a reflection in the action research cycle, we need to be aware of the egocentric perspective or inertia behaviors along the case study, because these egocentric and inertia aspects presented to us at month 6. But maybe it present to you at next month 4 or 5, I don't know, because in our mind it's difficult to think in a network. We're still thinking in an isolated companies. That's why the time and the results that we expect is less than we want to achieve. And finally, clarify the leaderships since the beginning. At least I have in mind key leaderships: the network owner, the network designer, the network manager. At least these different roles, because if you confuse these roles, it's difficult to get agreements around this network building. And what are the future research that I saw at this moment? At least research to frame and enhance the methodology. This is the first one. Research to evaluate business network design impact on the origin on the small enterprise and involved stakeholders perform hard and soft performance. Hard meaning business results, soft meaning interactions between all the people involved. Research to simplify the methodology, considering the small and medium enterprise mindset. Research to train, how to train all stakeholders involved along the process. And research to develop the case study as learning cycles, because as I said, you can see clearly three different and evolving moments: the owners, the founders, the network. In each of these huge cycles, you can see each cycle as a learning cycle in order to enhance the next cycle. And looking for the small and medium enterprises to look for tools to enhance the design and networks management. And obviously more aspects to develop in future research, but this is only one example to how to build a business network using the systems thinking approach. And thank you to all of you, but it's a pleasure for me to share all this process to all of you.
Well, thank you, Raul. Really interesting and fascinating experience. And I guess that there are lots of questions from people. I will start with one question. I am very surprised to see, obviously you came to the conclusion, Marcus is also having a question. So, okay, I'll do my question and then Marcus.
Yes.
I'm thinking that the ethos of the individual actors in the network was clearly very important. But what about other aspects of the organization? I can imagine that how can you design a network as a viable system if each one of the different nodes is not necessarily aligned with the same design as a viable system?
Yeah, we work on the purpose, Dr. Angela, thinking in recursivity, because we refine the purposes, okay? We start from this ethos, working with the internal team, with the first company, refine, based on this ethos, we refine this purpose and move to the second one, refine it with the founders.
Okay.
And then move to the third one, refining and sharing with the network, okay? It's an evolution of the purpose, okay?
Okay, let's leave it like that. I may come back later, but let's listen to Marco's question.
Yes, thank you, Angela. Raul, I'm impressed with the depth of your work. Thank you. I have a question. Early on, you mentioned that you had a lot of players there, and what was lacking was a network. And you said you wanted to build a systemic network. And now you have built it. But my question is, I mean, if they are intelligent networks, there must be, or you said systemic networks, there must be non-systemic networks. And so I would like to ask you, what is systemic about your work, about your network? What distinguishes fundamentally this network from a non-systemic one?
Okay. Let me return to the presentation to illustrate this aspect. Before a systemic view of these aspects, they worked only in a mindset of business relationships like this, okay? They have 88 business relationships, but depending on the projects mainly. Depending on the external needs, we work with these entities indistinctly, depending on the daily work. And they offer the services as an isolated company, and they integrate the services of the 88 entities only when they need, okay? They have only the same portfolio as an isolated company. When we use the systems thinking approach and develop a business network, we developed 8 services here as a network. All of these services, you can build these 8 services only as a network. You can build or offer these services as an isolated company. Then the company here have obviously their own portfolio, but they can add to their portfolio these 8 network businesses, okay? But in order to bring to their clients these services, they need to work as a designing network to put these services into the clients. This is the main service as a business, between thinking as a business, only as a business relationships, and thinking as a network. Is they extend capabilities, they extend market, they extend the portfolio, only to be part in a network, okay, and working in a network. Is that clear? Am I clear?
Thank you. Now, what I mean, you are integrating here components, and what's the main? And you built it almost from scratch. So, what was the main challenge and the main difficulty in that integration? Was it technical? Was it human, communicational, or what?
No, the main challenge in this integration, first of all, is mostly operational integration, okay? And this operational integration, the main challenge is how to design us in order to work as a system, okay? Because when I deploy one service, we need to integrate at least 4 companies with different teams and put together to bring a service as a network. Okay, and this combination of different skills, companies, schedules, and things like this is a huge challenge when we need to design these interactions, and this is where the viable system model is very helpful in order to organize all the interaction, mostly in the system one, and at the second level and in the meta system, because all the administrative stuff around invoices and things like this, we need to connect together in a recursivity way. All the meta system from all the 8 companies at first with a meta system of the network. These were the main challenges when I put together all these network, all these companies working as a network to bring services as a network.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Doctora,
Ian, yes.
Yeah.
Ian
Thanks,
has-
Angela. Raul, first of all, thank you so much for this. First of all, I find myself almost cheering at some aspects of what you were talking about. And I'd just like to explain why and then ask you a question. Over the years, I've worked with many organizations, and I've seen so many times the organization fail because of founders syndrome. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the term founders syndrome. I guess you are, looking at the way you've actually addressed it. Now, founder syndrome happens when the founders do everything right to get the thing started and think that as long as they keep on doing the same thing they've been doing, it'll just grow continuously and be super successful. Whereas actually you get to a state with, as you're describing it with the network and the environment, that very behavior that was essential to get started, if it doesn't change at the right time, can actually kill the organization. And I've seen that happen so many times, and worked with organizations who failed to get through that. What I'm interested in as a question is whether you had that in your mind when you were actually designing this process. I love the process, by the way, and I love the graphic representation of it as well. I like those kinds of representations. I think they help communicate things so clearly and easily. What was the reaction when you were working with organizations with this process to say, you now need to change the behavior that's made you successful? I'm just wondering about that, because often there's a very deep resistance. Your term going from ego to allocentric, I think, is a fundamental part of that. You're on mute, Raul.
A key point here was the network results. As a founders and as a businessman,
Yeah.
A key aspect that triggered a rethinking here was the results that we get in these 3 months. For my personal opinion, that was the key point, because they saw here that we are going to anywhere we move in different areas. We lost the tracking of the network. We feel that we don't advance. We don't have more projects. We don't have more leads. We don't have services. We don't have more members. That's the key point here, to move us to the rethinking and reconnection. Okay.
Yeah.
More the hard way, not the soft way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, also I am celebrating because you've actually used the VSM to address that.
Yeah.
And it's such a fundamental matter to use the VSM to address it so clearly. Oh, yes, please. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you.
But it's good for us to have this delay, because in the phase 3, we are stronger as a team. Okay. We are stronger as a team. We get more impulse, more a very strong people wanting to get results, wanting to build a network, thinking in an extended community. It's good for us to have this delay. Despite we spent 3 months, it's good for us, because we are now on the phase 3, and the speed and is different. The involvement of the people is different. The interests are different. Is better this delay. Looking backward.
Sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. So yeah,
Okay.
just thank you. Loved it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know if anyone else have another question. Elena, you do have any question?
Yeah, I was also very interested in the founder syndrome, but I also wondered about the disparity between the founders who are generally hoping that this organization will last for a long time and perhaps pass it to their children, and the executive who is worried about the last quarter's profit and pleasing the shareholders, who sometimes might think in a very much more short-term framework.
Do you mean the family involvement in all these kind of processes, more like this?
No, I agree with what you're saying about the founder involvement, that they have to, concentrate on coherence and not worry about the design and the operation. But in terms of the longevity of the vision, of whether it's a company that is essentially focused on remaining in business over the long term, where the executives are willing to make long-term plans and long-term investments, or some of the publicly traded companies where they may make only short-term investments and short-term plans because their career depends on their showing quarterly or at most yearly profits.
Okay. Here, we really discover, Dr. Elena, a huge potential in this network design for all the companies, because all the companies here, obviously in this phase 3, develop more market share because we get access with 7 more client portfolios. We extended our markets, we extended our services. We can get in agile way projects with this network, and this is happening now because all these aspects enhances the business the individual business performance. Then when you look for the design, the network, the services, the market, etc., you can discover that you extend your network capabilities only to be part in a network. It's the same company that can move in the way that you want, but suddenly you be part of a network that gives to you freely different benefits, huge benefits that you have only to participate in a network. And this, in business terms, is you can grow very fast, and you can offer an advantage to other companies being part of this network. It's a huge change because between working in an isolated way and working in a network way. This is I think the most important part when a small and medium group of enterprises design a network. Is a huge change in benefits from the company. Obviously, you need to organize well, as Marcus told us before, in order to achieve all the results in a coordinated way. Okay.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It looks very comprehensive.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to
Well,
all of
thank
you.
you, Raul. I think that it has been really interesting and exciting. And anyway, really good work. I think that we could stay for hours working on details of the approach and the case study, but you've done a very good summary and really interesting. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all of you to attend this webinar.
Okay.
See you soon.
Thanks, Raul.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Angela, could you stay on for a minute?
Yes, I will. Yes.